So it's time for another movie review. This one is about Anchorman 2, as you could tell from the title. Me and my friends went to go see it last night, opening night, and I gotta say, this movie is hilarious. Very, very funny movie. Laugh out loud moments from start to finish. Liked it a lot, loved it. And I'm not even, I really don't go out to see, comedies these days, new comedies. I hate Seth Rogen. He fucking irritates me. I just don't, enjoy the humor these days in comedies. But Anchorman 1 was a fucking classic. Just great movie, Anchorman. What was it, 2004, 2005? I think it was 2004 it came out. And I remember I used to watch that movie all the time, just quoting it all the time with my friends. Great movie. And ever since they announced Anchorman 2, I've been psyched for this, hyped for it very much. I had a lot of anticipation for this. Now, I mean, I was thinking, it would be pretty good. Not as good as the first one, but it would be a pretty good movie. But, sequels, there's always something missing. But with this movie, at least after the first viewing, I gotta say it was really on point. I couldn't have expected it to be any better being a sequel, and I think, that goes to the cast especially, and everybody who was involved were people who were involved with the first movie. The thing is, Will Ferrell, Steve Carell, Paul Rudd, the whole cast, they have their characters down to a T at this point, they have it down to a science. So, you could just watch them in a room, do nothing, and you laugh. That's like, you're so connected to their characters at that point. But I gotta say that with this movie, Anchorman 2, it's basically, it knows who its audience is. That's what this movie is. So, if you get the humor, you'll love it. If you don't, you're gonna hate it. If you didn't like Anchorman 1, you're not gonna like Anchorman 2. But if you're a fan of Anchorman 1, you're gonna be a fan of Anchorman 2. That's pretty much how it is. It's not trying to get any new viewers. That isn't saying that this movie didn't try to do some new things and bring in some new ideas. And that's one of the surprising things about this movie, is that it did have an actual message, a pretty serious message inside it. And I'll get to that in a little bit. But also another factor of me enjoying this movie, which is, it's tricky reviewing, especially a comedy, right after you see it in the theater, because the atmosphere of the crowd makes a huge difference. Now, when you're in a room full of, 50, 60, 70 people laughing, chances are, because laughing is contagious, that you're going to laugh. Now, will that translate to you watching it on your couch, on your TV? Only time will tell. But after a first viewing, I was laughing, I would say the range was like at least, 15, 20 seconds, there'd be at least one laugh throughout this thing. So the movie kicks off with, it picks up with Ron Burgundy years later. He's working, with Veronica Corningstone, Christina Applegate, his wife at this point, and Harrison Ford is their boss. This movie has a lot of cameos, a huge cast. They really, went a lot bigger with this movie. You have Harrison Ford being their boss. He makes Veronica Corningstone the lead anchor, and he fires Ron Burgundy. And Veronica Corningstone chooses the job over Ron Burgundy. So he's in a bit of a funk, the way he was towards, the beginning of the climax of Anchorman 1. And then somebody approaches him, and this is where the big message part is introduced. A news person approaches him with a job. He says, we're coming out, this takes place, I believe, in the 80s. I don't know if it's early 80s, mid 80s, somewhere in the 80s, probably like 1980, around there. He comes up to Ron Burgundy and he says, we had this idea for a 24-hour news cable channel, and, that's, referencing CNN. At that time, they were going to become a 24-hour news cable channel. Everybody doubted that. Ron Burgundy says, that's ridiculous. Who's going to watch news 24 hours? That'll never work. They call themselves GNN, and they want to have Ron Burgundy there to be an anchor for a 2 a.m. time slot, which is unheard of at that point. Doing the news at 2 a.m. and that's how Ron Burgundy gets his whole news team together. We're reintroduced to Champ. He's working at this chicken place, but he uses bats as chicken instead. He calls them the chicken of the cave. We reintroduced to Paul Rudd, who's now doing photographs of kittens. He's a photographer for kittens. And then Brick, who they think is dead, they're having a eulogy at his funeral, and then Brick comes and talks about how, he's sad over Brick's loss, and they're like, what are you talking about? You're alive. The guys get their characters down perfectly. It's like they haven't missed a step. So we move on to the story. You have this black lady, I'm not sure the actress's name, but the black lady is their boss, and they can't get over the fact that not only is their lady a boss, but she's black. So you have the whole interracial thing going on, and basically this movie reminded me a lot of Network, a movie from 1976, a very, very good movie about mass media, but it wasn't a comedy. So it really talks about the way news is portrayed today, the way it has become today into this media circus. Ron Burgundy decides how am I gonna get people to watch at 2 a.m. He says we're not gonna give the people what they need to hear. We're gonna give the people what they want to hear. So he talks about, we're going to tell them how great America is. We're going to do news stories about sex, about violence. Pretty much the only thing you see on news today. And then you bring in, all of a sudden, he revolutionizes the business by airing a car chase. And everybody's like, no, you can't do that. You can't air a car chase. And how many car chases have we seen on the news, at this time? But they're playing off the fact that Ron Burgundy is the one that revolutionized the media circus and the idiocracy in the media and the news that we have today. And I thought that was great, Instead of just doing a sequel that, was just a rehash of the first one, they really actually tried to tell a story and actually tried to, do something that was meaningful, have a strong message. And it wasn't, to the point where they were trying to get the message across so much that it felt like a school lecture. While they were getting their message across, they were still providing laughs every second along the way. And that's what made this movie great. Now that I'm talking about it, this is a fucking fantastic movie. It really is. So, you have Ron Burgundy and the crew doing, all this stuff, anything but that everything that goes across the grain of what journalism was supposed to be. And that's the criticism and the controversy of the news today, is it goes against the grains of what journalism was supposed to be. What it was originated off of. All it is this media circus of showing violence, showing sex, giving the people what they want to hear rather than what they need to hear. They're talking about ideas, about nuclear things going on in China and war talks and all this, and they're like, no, that's boring, let's just show, let's talk about how patriotic America is. And that's what you get when you watch CNN. That's what you get when you watch Fox News today. It's a very good satire, this movie. So that's going along. Very fucking funny moments. Brick, you have this little subplot with Brick, and he falls in love with this girl. I forgot what her name is. I think it's Kristen Wiig. She's on Saturday Night Live. She's just as awkward as Brick, and Brick is really the show stealer in this one. He has a lot of camera time, and he, every second he's on the camera, he's fucking hilarious. The stuff he says, just the facial expressions. So Ron Burgundy gets this story that he wants to do. Well, the news crew, I think Paul Rudd comes up with this story, but one of them come up with the story of this airline, something, I'm not sure what it was, because this is my criticism, and this doesn't have to do with the movie, this has to do with the fucking theater I saw it in. The volume was so fucking low. It was like I had to lean in for most of the time, and for a comedy, everybody's laughing, so, it's hard to catch shit if the volume is low while everybody's laughing. It was like I was watching TV at, some grandmother's house. It was so fucking low. I don't know why. But, so I couldn't catch as much of the story as I wanted to. But there's this story that the news team wants to do about this this controversy with this airline, and it just so happens that the owner of GNN, the news channel that Ron Burgundy is employed, also owns the airline, and he's talking about how it's synergy in this conglomerate. So you can't criticize or bring bad attention to the other things that he owns, while you're on this. And that's just how the world is today. I took mass media class in college, and all the corporations, there's so few conglomerates, so few that they have a hold over everything. Like it's not just CNN and Fox, but they own so many other things that you don't even realize. If you Google it, it's insane. And that's what the movie network is about. If you're interested in this stuff about the monopoly that mass media has become, I definitely suggest to watch the movie network. But that's what this movie is all about too. Basically, this guy who owns the news channel also owns the airline, so you can't do any bad news about the airline because it's all part of this media conglomerate family. So it's weird because journalism is supposed to always tell the truth and tell the stories, yet there's always these limitations, these barriers, because you can't say this and this if it's gonna show off this thing in a bad light, because everything is owned by the same thing. There's not enough diversity. There's not enough little independent channels and all this. And it really is pretty deep for a comedy to be doing this. That's pretty fucking great. Basically, you get this. Will Ferrell goes blind at a point because he's having a rivalry with this guy named Jack Lime, another anchor. Jack Lime makes Will Ferrell's ice skating, and he puts a rope across the floor. Will Ferrell falls. Spoilers, whatever. Will Ferrell falls, knocks his head, and he goes blind. And there's this just hilarious sequence where he's in the lighthouse, and the team goes to see him, and he's talking about how he's blind, and he's saying I was drinking a bottle of ketchup thinking it was wine, and I drank half the bottle. And Paul Rudd's like, but wouldn't you notice it, like, after the first gulp that it's ketchup, it's not wine? And Will Ferrell's like, haven't you been listening to me? I said I'm blind. Like, he can't taste it even though he's blind. Just hilarious shit. It's like, just really fucking, like, dumb humor that is just hilarious. Basically, Veronica Corningstone comes back to him. They get back together. They also have a kid at this point. The kid wasn't annoying. That's always good when a kid actor isn't annoying, because usually they are. Basically, Will Ferrell, he's being told to report something, and he has to choose between reporting something and missing his son's recital. He made a piano song for Will Ferrell, and he chooses his son. He says, I'm done with the news and all this. And then he says whatever airline sucks, and the boss goes crazy, and then Brick becomes the anchor. So, just showing off that, the media and the news is full of a bunch of fucking idiots behind the screen. And then you get the huge epic battle of the news teams, and you get so many cameos, like the first Anchorman, where it was, Vince Vaughn news team, the Ben Stiller and the Spanish news team. Here you get Jim Carrey, I think the Canadian news team, Liam Neeson, you get Harrison Ford, Kanye West, Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, so many fucking people in this movie. Such, just a lot of cameos. And it just turns into a Michael Bay movie out of fucking nowhere. Brick has a ray gun from, like, Ghostbusters, it looks like, and he blows up a building. There's a Minotaur. There's the ghost of Stonewall Jackson. It's just so fucking crazy and great. If you like this humor, you'll love it. And then Will Ferrell eventually gets to his kid's recital. There's a great little subplot with Will Ferrell and the Black Boss. They have a little affair, and Will Ferrell's at their house trying to act black. Pretty funny stuff. Basically, him and Veronica get back together. Brick and the girl get married, live happily ever after. Bada bing, bada boom, bada bang. So, like I said, fantastic movie. Really was hilarious from start to finish. Riotously funny. The one thing is as good as Anchorman 1. I can't judge because, like I said, watching a movie at the theater with 70 people laughing is a lot different than watching the movie on your own, on your couch. You know, are you gonna laugh as much? I rewatched Anchorman 1 and I laughed a lot on my own. Will that happen when I watch Anchorman 2? I'll see when it comes out on DVD or Netflix or whatever. But I will say that Anchorman 1 had a tighter... It was a lot tighter, Anchorman 1, with the editing. The editing was a lot tighter and the story itself was a lot tighter, the way it was told. Anchorman 2, I think, is 30 minutes longer. Could have done with some tighter editing. And I think Anchorman 1 is a lot more quotable. That's not saying that, you know, the stuff in Anchorman 2 isn't funny. It's hilarious, but I don't think the lines are as quotable as they are in Anchorman 1. I mean, every fucking scene there's a quotable line, you know? Anchorman 2, very funny though. I'm not trying to sell it short. Very fucking great, you know, exceeds expectations. A very worthy sequel. You know, it's not just some bullshit sequel that, oh, let's just rehash Anchorman 1. It actually tried to tell a story. And for that, I tip my hat off. I recommend it definitely. If you're a fan of Anchorman 1, go see it. If you don't like Anchorman 1, don't go see it. But if you do like Anchorman 1, it will be a great time. So, you know, great movie. Good stuff. And hopefully that's it. You know, they don't do Anchorman 3 now with rehashing. You know, this is a good way to go off. I loved it a lot. Let me know what you thought if you saw it and that all that jazz. I'm Jay Shady, the voice of reason. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you later.